Now, of course, that's not exactly what he's talking about. He's saying that war is going to affect the value of Bitcoin because of the uncertainty. And that's true across any asset ever. If this war in Iran continues to happen and the Strait of Hormuz continues to be a choke point for 20% of the global oil around the world, oil and energy is an input for every single other thing in the world that we use. So all of those things become more expensive. And because they become more expensive, people buy less of them, right? It's that's the only other thing that can give, right? People don't just all of a sudden have more money to continue the same spending habits. So they have to reduce their demand, right? Supply and demand. So what that does is it's called demand destruction. As the price rises of all assets around the world, because, or certain assets, I suppose, but many, because of the cost of energy as an input, that reduces demand, and that reduction in demand decreases GDP and tax for governments and creates all sorts of financial problems in a system that is propped up by continual spending, continual debt creation, and continual Ponzi-like activities. So what survives in that environment? Well, oil in that specific situation I'm talking about will do well for how long, right? There's a supply and demand that ultimately levels out in that respect eventually anyway, right? Either demand gets destroyed and then energy gets revalued because there's less demand, right? It's a fluctuating market, or supply comes on board as more and more oil is being extracted elsewhere, moved elsewhere. Ultimately, oil is very abundant, so it's not really a long-term play. You're not going to want to store your value for a generation in oil because it's relatively accessible. And there's going to be these peak moments where critical lines in the infrastructure that we've set up around the world become restricted, and there's going to be all of a sudden a boom in price, but it will revert back to the mean. And then there's going to be times where this becomes too abundant, right? We saw where oil was being priced negatively at a point. So again, the question is what else do you own in these situations? If demand destruction happens, again, that's going to reduce the profits of companies. They no longer seem as investable. People move money out of there. So essentially, there's nothing really to hold. In the short term, yeah, you could hold dollars while there's civil unrest and chaos and war and things. That's not the worst thing you can hold. But ultimately, again, just like oil, you can't hold it long term because it is being debased. And in Terrence's mind, you don't want to hold anything that's connected to fiat. So you can't own anything. You can't own anything that it has any value because that value could be denominated in fiat.